All right, hey guys, what is up? It is Bibzuda back here once again on the Outlast Trials, and in this video we are going to be continuing the Over-Explained series, and it's been a little bit longer between episodes than I ideally would have hoped, but we are back for the fourth installment, which is going to be on the Courthouse. I already have videos for Police Station, Orphanage, and Fun Park, so we're moving on to the Courthouse now. And if you don't know what this series is about, it's basically me going through every single trial on a map and over-explaining the objectives and pretty much everything I'm doing and thinking on the trial to help anybody who might either be struggling to complete it, or, you know, even for those who are more experienced with the game, might just want a few little extra tips and tricks here to help them complete it more quickly or more easily. I do go into very specific detail about objectives and things like that, but I will also give niche tips and things that'll only help on specific trials. So it's, you know, kind of ideally you got something for everybody in here. So yeah, we're going to jump into the Courthouse here, which of course has the Vindicate the Guilty main trial and 5 MKs, so we'll be covering each of those. And this is actually the first map which was not included with the original early access release, and this one was the only additional map that was released during early access. Toy Factory, which is the next map, was released with 1.0, which was actually almost exactly 2 years ago now. I actually might end up uploading this on the second anniversary date, which is March 5th, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Those of you who haven't seen the other episodes, I just want to be clear on how we do things here. I will be playing on the standard difficulty, just to give you know, not too much high pressure for myself on completing the trial, and giving me, you know, the space and time to explain things for the most part. So just note that if you are on a higher difficulty, there may be enemies in different places, or different kinds of enemies in certain places that you don't see me go up against, but this will give you the idea of at least how to complete the trials. Additionally, for the loadout, I will not be using any loadout, so no rig and no amps, just to not you know, influence how I complete the trial. But I will, you know, talk about where certain things will be good and where they would not be. And I will also talk about the loadout I recommend for each trial. The standard loadout, which I would say is the best meta loadout for any given trial, is stun, noise reduction, smash, and boosted. If you're going for A+, you can also use evasive maneuver if you'd prefer that. And then if you're not going for A+, using self-revive or last chance is probably the better choice. I will talk about in each trial if there is a loadout change that I would recommend. Otherwise, I would just stay with the standard setup right here if you want to use the best one. If you enjoy using something else, feel free. You can use whatever you like, but that's just the best meta loadout in my opinion. With all that out of the way, we're going to get started with the first trial here, which is going to be Vindicate the Guilty. And personally, this is one of my least favorite main trials in the game, although not quite as bad as Poison the Medicine. I'm just not a fan of the over-tutorialization of it. However, we're still going to go through it here for you guys, and I'll see you when we arrive at Vindicate the Guilty. Alright, we're here on Vindicate the Guilty, and as far as a recommended loadout for this trial, I would probably just stick with the standard, although you can bring blind if you like, specifically for the finale. The finale is very easy and free with blind, as is the case with many of the main trial finales. Blind is very good there, but it won't be as useful throughout the trial. Also, well, I guess we'll talk about it when we get there, but yeah, that's where I would leave that. As far as other amps, you could switch out noise reduction for backpack if you really want to, because you do need to use the microwave triggers and potentially the tracker. But if you've played this trial, you know, even just like 4 or 5 times, you probably don't need the tracker. The area the witnesses can be in isn't very big, so I would probably just stick with noise reduction. But yes, Vindicate the Guilty here on the Courthouse on standard. Let's jump into it and see how we can do here. Of course, if you missed the other episodes of this series, I don't exactly go through like the layout of the map completely. I'm not going to be like, oh, this, you know, turn down this hallway and go this way. It's not like step by step in that regard. It's more so talking about the objectives themselves and how they work and where they might spawn, as opposed to like, you know, just step by step. Okay, we're going to walk forward here, guys, and whatever. I mean, I kind of say some things like that, but it's not as deliberately step by step as that. So anyways, starting off here, of course, we spawn outside of the courthouse. This is a spawn point and exit point for many of the trials on this map, so good place to know about. And you have this outdoor area that leads into the courthouse. On higher difficulties, a large grunt will spawn out here. Maybe it's a small grunt on intensive or something, but it seems that on standard we don't have anybody. Okay, so the grunt comes out of the courthouse there, but so we do need to watch out for this grunt. But for the most part, you can loot around a little bit. It's similar to the outside of the police station, which does have an enemy spawn as well, but you need to be a little bit careful and avoiding them. But you can loot around a little bit and watch out for crackheads. But mainly, your objective is to get inside of the courthouse here. We got a pouncer there. Usually once you're inside, you're a bit safer as long as you weren't chased by that giant. So you can go around this entire, couple rooms here. There's, the clerk's office over there. You can look for loot, look for secondary objectives. A lot of the map is closed off, but there are a decent few rooms available that you can check out. But eventually you're going to have to go down this main hallway, and we're going to see our little coil introduction here as this gate closes on you.
You do not contradict the testimony of an officer of the law!
You gotta love Coil. And yeah, of course, now we need to get to the courtroom. That's our objective, reach the courtroom. And we can see it right there. We need to get to that little set of tubes to get inside of the courtroom. And basically, we have to go through what is known as the library to get there. There is a co-op jump you can do here if you're in a group. We are not, so we have to take the long way around. But you can do the co-op jump, and then they can open this barred door for you, which can be kind of nice. The Night Hunter is usually in this area. I don't know if he's here on the lower difficulties, but yeah, we do need to navigate. Okay, looks like it's a normal grunt here on the lower difficulty, so it's not as bad because he obviously can't see in the dark. Screamers are often also a pretty high level of annoyance on this map in particular. They tend to be in many different places. That can be very annoying, especially on the MKs, which we'll see later. I usually like to take this crawl space route to get around and then go through this bookshelf to reach the courtroom. That seems to be the safest for me and generally is the fastest. I've actually got a secret room spawn right there, so that's the actual earliest secret room you can possibly get. I don't really have the need to visit it at the moment, but that is worth noting that that's one of the secret room spawns. I'm not going to point out every single secret room spawn, but maybe I'll make a separate video on that at some point. But yeah, we're now on the other side of the gate, of course, and we need to go in here to start the trial. Of course, here in the courtroom, we need to hit the button, a little rally button, so you have to wait for your teammates. But don't forget to smash the like button down below, just like that, if you enjoyed this video. And we will be, kind of like on Cleanse the Orphans, where you hit that button in the lobby a couple times. We'll be returning to this spot and hitting this button several times throughout the trial. However, uniquely to this trial, these tube things will actually not lower until like the finale of the trial. So you can use this room, the courtroom, as a safe zone of sorts. You can come in here and hide from the Jaeger, and she will leave. And it's pretty chill and safe in here. I mean, there is an EIG here, so like potentially maybe things could spawn in here, but I'm not even sure if that's true. That might just be there for later on. So you are pretty safe in this little area. I mean, this entire area. There's until the finale. Like there's this jury room is where we need to start the next objective. But yeah, you have a lot of safe area here, and it's most importantly a great place to lose the Jaeger. So here we have our first real objective of this trial, and it is a new objective. If you don't know, if I've already gone over an objective in detail in a prior video, I won't fully review it here. Like in one of the MKs, we have generators. So I already went over generators in high amounts of detail in the police station video. So I won't be fully reviewing them all, as these are kind of meant to be like a continuous series of videos. But when we have a new objective, we'll of course cover it in a lot of detail. So first up here, this is an evidence box. Basically, it's what ends up most people call a blacklight number puzzle. And what happens is you press the button on the side of this box, and a set of black lights will go on in the room. Like you can see, like that is what one of them is, but it doesn't really matter what they look like. But black lights will turn on in the room, and there will be 4 numbers hidden around the room, which will only be visible under the black light. And so like right now we can't go looking around the room to try and find them before we activate the black light because we can't see them. The important thing is once you hit the button and start the time, or, you know, well, I guess I just gave it away. Once you hit the button, it will start a timer that will start ticking down. And if that timer hits 0, an electric shock will be triggered on anybody who is still inside the room. So that's important to be aware of. But something I didn't know, honestly, for a long time after starting this, like, if you leave the room, you will not take the electric shock damage, and you will not get a demerit at all. It will make a loud noise. That is what does happen. So like if the time runs out, it shocks everybody in the room, and it makes a loud noise at the location. The loud noise will still play, but you will not take the damage, and you will not get a demerit. So if you're going for an A+, and there's not a lot of time left, and you haven't found all the numbers yet, you can just leave the room, and you will be perfectly safe and not take damage. That's definitely an important thing to know about. So here in the tutorial, we can hit the button and start it. As you see, the black lights come on. This is the tutorial, so it's very easy. We can see all the numbers just right here. There's a 9, a 0, a 1, and a 7. And the way you know what order the numbers should be entered in is by the pyramids that are next to them. And, you know, it might be intuitive for you. It might not be. I know this has confused some people, and other people find it easy. But it's based on how filled up the pyramid is. So this empty pyramid right here means that number 9 is the first number, and then it goes up from there. So this one has one of its pieces filled in, so 0 is the second number, and so on. So that means 1 is the third number, and 7 is the last number. So that's how you identify which number goes where. And you want to enter those into this box here. Now this one, the tutorial, I believe is either 90 or 120 seconds long. The ones in the main part of this trial are 60 seconds long, so you have quite a bit of a reduced amount of time, and you'll have a much harder time finding the numbers. You are allowed to get it wrong, so if I just put in some random numbers here, it takes away 10 seconds off your timer, but it doesn't give you a demerit or anything like that. So if you are not able to find the last number for whatever reason, you can pretty easily brute force guess it, as long as if you are 10 seconds or less and you're about to run out of time, you get out of the room and avoid the shock. So let's do this one more time here, and then I'll show you what happens. So you can, there's even an additional sound effect when the timer is counting down. So if we step out of the room here, you will notice that the timer will run out. There's a loud noise that plays, although for some reason we couldn't hear it from the other room. There was a loud noise, but we didn't take any shock damage, and we can just restart it. And yeah, it's 120 seconds. Now I am going to show quickly the shock damage as well. So you can guess as many times as you want, and of course if you're only missing one number, you'll have to, well, I guess it depends on where it is in the order, but you'll only have to guess like 6 times at most. So here we go, the time runs out. We take 1 bar of damage from the shock and the loud noise triggers, and that's obviously a demerit for damage taken, but you don't get any demerits if you leave the room. And that's pretty much all there is to this objective. Knowing, of course, the pyramids to tell you which numbers go where is the most important part, and the rest is kind of easy to figure out. So 9017 is what we have to enter. The order is, of course, important. And you can't have the same number twice, is also important to note. There's only, you can only press each button one time. And this opens up, and we have ourselves a head here, which is the piece of evidence that we need to deliver. And these are just a standard heavy object. There's nothing important to note about them. So if you want to learn more about heavy objects, I talk about those in the police station video. But basically, they slow your movement speed a bit, and you know, they restrict your abilities a little bit. Like you can't do a big running jump with a heavy object. But these don't have any special properties to them like the acid buckets, which we will get into here very, very shortly. But yeah, this is the heavy object. In this case, we need to bring these to the fountain, which is here in the courtyard, and you just toss them into the fountain to complete that part of the objective. There's These heavy objects come up again in an MK, and you have to bring them somewhere else, but it's just a point A to point B type of objective, so pretty easy to understand and to deal with. Now, since we are this is during the tutorial right here, so we actually are completely safe in this fountain area. I'm not sure if the grunt would still be over in the library, but you are pretty much free to go loot around the fountain and do anything. That's probably one of my biggest gripes with this trial, is how much tutorial there is involved in it, like I mentioned, and this is part of it. Because what we have to do now is come over to this closet where it says caution acid on site, and we need to bring the acid over to the fountain. And the acid is, again, a heavy object, but importantly, if you run with the acid in your hands, you will take damage. If you do any sort of fast action, if you run, if you jump, if you try and fast bash down a door, those will all cause you damage. So as you can see, we can walk and we're perfectly fine. The acid is just chilling. But if I start running, I will take damage. Now, it's not a lot of damage here on standard, but if you have like deadly traps or like you're at a high level of difficulty, the damage will be pretty significant. So you do want to generally not have that happen. So watch, if I jump forward. Okay, if you jump, it's actually a full bar. So I didn't even know that it was varied like that. So I guess it depends on the action you do. You know, we're all getting better together. You learn something new every day. I don't really get damaged by the acid very often, so I didn't realize there was different amounts based on the action you did. So jumping is very bad, running is not so bad. One little tech you can do, and I talked about this in my movement tech video if you'd like, is you can tap sprint, and as you can see, my stamina is going down, and I am moving very slightly faster. I mean, it's actually a pretty decent speed up, to be honest with you, if you want to bother doing it. And I will not take damage because I'm only running for very short bursts at a time. You can generally like sprint for like a step, maybe a step and a half before the damage kicks in. So that can be nice to know if you are in a pinch, you know, or you're like on countdown or something and you need to go quicker for whatever reason. You can, you know, tap sprint to avoid damage from the acid. But other than that, it's just your normal heavy object, so it will slow your movement speed, and you definitely don't want to be sprinting or jumping or bashing doors with this in your hand. Like if you need to bash a door, just drop it and then do the door bashing. Like you can drop it and then run immediately. Like there's no consequences for dropping it on the floor. So yeah, it is a unique heavy object in that it will damage you if you're rushing around with it, but otherwise it's not that big of a deal. It's just really annoying to have to bring it around sometimes. And we have to bring this again to the fountain and pour it in here, and this generally is something that you will pour into different places on different MKs. And that is of course the completion of that part of the tutorial, and now most of the map is going to be opening up, and it's generally this left side that is fully open. The right side, the library, is still open, but upstairs the right side will not be open just yet. So yeah, we can head over now to the left side, and your objective now, you need to get one more evidence and one more acid back to the fountain, and in teams this will be 2 evidence and 2 acid, but we're gonna head down this hallway, and you can either go with the evidence first or the acid. The acid is upstairs, evidence is downstairs here, and this introduces I believe a new mechanic. I don't think we've seen this on any of the other maps. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we'll see these, and these are rig disabling zones. And so you see these gates, they look a little bit similar to the heavy object gates that we talked about on the prior maps, but they have the no rig icon on top. And basically how these work is when you walk through these, your rig will be disabled, and it will remain disabled until you leave the zone. So this entire area, the entire area where you can find the evidence, the blacklight number puzzles that will give you 1 evidence back, this entire zone is within rig disabling gates. So there's no way around it. You cannot go into this area without passing through one of these gates. There's a couple different entrances to the area, but they all have one of these gates on them. And who do we have coming to visit us here? It's the pitcher. Okay, great. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the gates just to be clear about it. It's very obvious when you go through one of these, so even if you're not paying attention, you will notice it, because if you have a rig, which we do not, it makes a sound effect of like the rig getting disabled that you can hear. And if you have your rig in your hand while it's disabled, it's got like electricity, little static going on around it that you will pretty easily notice, and you will not be able to use it no matter what you do until you leave the zone of rig disable. Importantly, if your rig is on cooldown, it will still continue cooling down while you're in the rig disabled area, so you don't need to worry about potentially missing out on cooldown time. So I guess that's something that's good to note there. But otherwise, I mean, they're pretty simple, and as far as I know, there's no real way around them at all. You just have to go through them and deal with the area not allowing you to use your rig. So yeah, important to know. So we're going to look in this area for another one of those blacklight number puzzle boxes, and it can be in any one of the rooms in this area. One thing that's good to know if you're in a team is there's basically pairs of rooms. So this room and this room constitute one pair. Like those are a pair of rooms together. Then we have two rooms here in the center. So there's this room where this door leads into, and then another room right there. That's another pair of rooms. And then there are two more rooms over here on the right, which is this room right here, evidence room D, and this room over here, evidence room C, which are another pair. So you have, basically, they all do have letters, but nobody really ever references them by the letters. Basically, D and C, as well as A and B, as well as rooms E and F. Those are the pairs. And basically, if I get an evidence box in room F, and I'm on a team where there's two evidence boxes, so I'm going to need to find another, the second one will never be in room E. And, you know, basically that applies in every case. So if there's one in evidence room D, there will never be a second one in evidence room C. So that's, yeah, essentially that is how the evidence boxes will spawn in a team. In solo, it doesn't matter because you can find them anywhere, and there's only one, so there won't be any exclusions made by the one that you find, obviously. But yeah, that's good to know, so you don't waste time if you find one and in a team. You know, you can look around other rooms more quickly because you know that a certain room, you know, you can basically eliminate one room once you find the first one in a team. Also important, I guess, or worth mentioning is the other side of the rig disabling gates will show a green, you know, icon, so you know that, okay, now I'm leaving the rig disabling zone, and once I go through here, I can now use my rig again. So yeah, good to know that that's how those look. But yeah, anyways, we're now just going to look for the box. It's best to probably most of the time look out for a red light for the button. And it's going to be on like a shelf usually, or like a little table somewhere. And we found it right here. Now this room is actually the worst room to get it in. It's probably the most difficult one to complete successfully in the time frame allotted. Careful of coil. But yeah, just to reiterate, since we found this here in room D, if we were in a team and there were two, it would not be in room C ever. There's no chance of that. It's impossible. But yeah, so we're going to press this and look around for the numbers. And again, it gives you 60 seconds. And we found one right there. There's number 5 is our first number. And I don't really have a whole ton of tips. 5, 8. Let me just kind of find. Okay, we found them all pretty luckily there. 5, 8, 1, 4. And then we just punch that in here. And that's that completed. I don't really have a ton of specific tips for finding the numbers. It's kind of something you just will get experience with and kind of know where they can spawn. But they can be almost anywhere. You know, a lot of the times they'll be on the ceilings, on the walls. There could probably be one like on this cart, on the shelves. There's, you know, you pretty much have to look everywhere. They could be on the floor. And then, you know, certain rooms will have specific spots that are maybe unique to those rooms that you might not expect in other rooms, so you can, you know, it's a bit of an experience thing that you will take time to learn, but just looking around, you will hopefully eventually find them. Sometimes there's like that one number that you just cannot find, and again, you can guess the last number if needed by just, you know, punching it in and hoping you get it right. And then if you're about to run out of time, again, just leave and you'll be all good. So we have our first, or our second piece of evidence, I guess, the non-tutorial version. And you can come through this little barred door. It's a nice little shortcut, brings you back here to the courtyard, and we can drop off our piece of evidence at the fountain, and that's that done. Now there is a berserker in this area on, we have the pusher, just give him a brick of justice. There's usually a berserker in this area on higher difficulties. I guess he doesn't spawn on the lower difficulties, it appears. We are going to head upstairs to do the acid now. You can go the way that we went originally and go up the stairs, or you can take the stairs that are here in the lobby. You have options here. But yeah, it's off to the right-hand side here, you know, relative to the entrance of the courtroom. And like I mentioned, the left side is not available, but there are rig disabling gates upstairs on the left for later in the trial. But yeah, basically I don't think he knows where we are. Yeah, he's leaving. To find the acid, you want to look for this sign right here. Now, this is just showing us the area where the acid is in, but basically this sign, very similar to generators in Kill the Snitch, there will be a sign on the side of the door that leads to the room which the acid is in. And it will change, of course, based on where the acid is on any given trial. A lot of the time it's in this room right here, but it's actually not the case on this one, since, as you can see, we don't have this sign on either side of the door. And that's all you really want to look for. Now, of course, we have massive intel from standard difficulty. That shows us where it is anyway. But if we were on a higher difficulty and we didn't know, we could look for the sign, and there it is right there. So you see caution. Wow, instantly gives up on the bottom. Strange. As you can see, caution, acid on site. Sign is right there next to the door, and there's another door to that same room over here that will also have the sign. So yeah, very easy way to find the acid is to look for that sign, and it will be on every entrance to the room as long as it's a door. And this will also show up on multiple if you are in a group. So yeah, here we have the acid. Also, the acid always spawns on this sort of cart-looking thing with the little bag, like a janitor's cart or something. Like if we come through the crawl space into this room, and we go over here to where the screamer is at, get him out of here. Oh wait, does it actually not even spawn the cart in other rooms if the acid is not in the room? I've never actually looked for it, so I kind of assumed that the cart would always be there. But if it's not, then that is worth noting too, I guess. Yeah, I think it's usually like right there in this room, or maybe it can be in other places as well. Regardless, that is where the acid will always be. If it is in the room that you're in, it'll be on one of those little cart-looking things. And, you know, that can help you find it, I guess, if you're struggling. Even if you know the room, you might not have an easy time finding it. It's not going to be, like, on a shelf like that. It'll be on that little cart. So we have the acid. Of course, same rule applies. Do not run. Do not jump. Don't do any quick actions while you're holding it, because you will definitely splash yourself and take damage. I am going to adrenaline here, and this actually allows you to do quite fast movement with the acid as long as you're using that sprint tap ability that I mentioned. As you can see, we're actually moving pretty quick because of the speed increase of the adrenaline. That can just help you, again, save some time, not be as bored while bringing this back to the fountain. We have the pusher again, but we should be able to pour this same way as before. You just pour it in, and that is that. And now we need to return to the courtroom for the next step. So again, just like Cleanse the Orphans, you need to go back to the same place a couple times. You can go through the way you came out of the tutorial, or you can go through the main door, whichever way is safer or easier for you. But we're going to go through there and then hit the button to proceed with the trial. And then, you know, we got another cutscene that'll play. And yeah, we're now moving on to the basically second main objective of this trial. There's these two objectives. I mean, acid and evidence is kind of one thing, you know, because you got to bring them both to the fountain. We're now moving on to the witness portion of the trial. And this is one of the worst tutorials in the entire game, by the way. You have to do this every time you do the trial. And you have to shock this witness 3 times before you can move on, and it takes forever, and you'll get really bored of this the more times you do the trial, but we're going to take our time with it just so I can fully explain how the witnesses work. So basically we get this item right here, which is called a microwave trigger, and we use this to kill the witnesses, basically. So you see in the top left, our current objective is to kill the witness, and this is the tutorial witness. And you can see what they look like. All witnesses will look like this. They're technically called scapegoats, I believe, but in this trial, they're known as witnesses. So, yeah, that's what most people call them, as witnesses, but they are, I believe, the objective themselves are known as scapegoats because they're only witnesses on the courthouse. I don't know. Anyways, this is what they all look like. They have these crazy apparatus on their head and face, and they're wearing diapers. And the way you can tell how many shocks it will take to kill a witness is by the bulbs on their head. So this witness, of course, has 3 bulbs, meaning we will have to shock him 3 times with the microwave trigger to kill him. And if you hover over a witness, you can see the light on your microwave trigger will light up, and that means you are in range to use it. If you're not in range to use it, it will not have a light. Pressing the button will not do anything. And you can see, let me see if we can get far enough away. Okay, this room is not quite big. Okay, so you can see, even though I have my mouse on the witness, I'm too far away right now to actually shock him. So there is a minimum range you have to be within. It's pretty far. This is it here. So it's barely enough being far enough away for it to not work. So that's worth noting. And then when you do want to shock them, you just hold down right click and you'll see this meter on your microwave trigger will slowly go up, and when it gets to the max it will hit the red, and that will damage the witness and make a very loud noise at your location, attracting enemies and things like that. So as you see, we hold it down and it starts to go up, and then you can let it go and it won't do anything, but if you do get all the way to the end, it will deal the damage. So you basically want to be able to have a clear line of sight of the witness and fully use, hold it down all the way, and we'll show what it looks like here. So it makes a level 3 sound and damages the witness. He loses 1 bulb, and you saw in the top right, on our device, the light started flashing. Basically, when you do the damage to the witness, the microwave trigger will go on cooldown for a short amount of time. So you can't just instantly hit the witness 3 times and then be done with him, because your device will be on cooldown. And he also will be undamageable by other people too. Like, you can't stagger hit him with microwave triggers from others. Like, the witness itself is on cooldown as well. So we're gonna hit him again because he's banging on this door very annoyingly. But yeah, this is basically how the witnesses work. You hit him 3 times, or however many times there are on their head. The different trials will have different numbers of bulbs on their witnesses' heads. We'll do them 1 more time after the cooldown wore off, and there we have it. They will then freak out and panic, and their head will explode. And that is how you kill the witnesses, how you defeat the scapegoats. And there's a whole host of different ways to do this that will help you complete it more quickly. The most important thing to know about, and we'll see it here when we go out, is that after you damage a witness, they will try to leave. They will go for the nearest EIG to get out of the trial, and then will respawn somewhere else that you'll have to find again in order to finish them off with another hit or 2. So there's a lot of strategy around how to 1-cycle the witness, which basically means you will take them from full bulbs to 0 without allowing them to leave the trial. And you can do this by hitting them with bricks, using your rig, or more creatively by leveraging things like locked doors or hit juking to make them waste their time while your cooldown is coming back up for your microwave trigger. And I could make a whole video on these different strategies. I think maybe COTS already has a video on them, or is working on a huge video on all of these techs. So I'm not going to go over every single way of using tech on a witness to get the 1-cycle. On certain trials, like the upcoming Escape the Courthouse, on this map, I will go into some specific strategies for specific witness spawns that can help you get 1-cycles more easily. But in this trial, I'll just showcase them where they're, where reasonable. But very simply, like if I just zap a witness and then use a stun rig, I can then zap them again before they can leave because they're stunned. So that's the basic premise of being able to shock them and take them out. There's also an additional component to finding witnesses, which is this item, which is known as the tracker. And this is present on, I think, every trial that has this objective. So you can use it if you need to. And definitely worth using for beginners, especially if you don't know the map layout very well and can't search it effectively. You are going to want to use this item. Once you get more experienced and you know where the witnesses can possibly spawn and are more confident in clearing the map quickly and checking all their locations, you won't need to carry this item anymore. But yeah, it's pretty simple. It looks all weird and complicated, but the only thing that matters are the lights on it. There's 5 lights on the middle of this item, and as you can see, 2 of them are currently lit up. The more lights that light up, the closer you are to the witness. There's also an up and a down arrow which have lights next to them, and if those lights are on, that means the witness is above or below you in terms of elevation. So right now there's a witness somewhat nearby, 2 lights are on, and they are on the same level as me. So this will increase in number as you get closer to the witness, and eventually we'll be at 5 lights when you are very nearby to them. Who's this? Pusher? Okay, I'm just gonna go back in here briefly. So yeah, again, you can use this as much, even if you're experienced, you can use it if you want. I often will still take it on Pledge the Prosecutor, which is a trial on downtown that has witnesses because the map is huge and there's a lot of places they can be. If I have inventory, I might as well, you might as well take it if you have the space, I guess you could also say. Watch out for this crackhead out here. He's often annoying. Like that. I didn't expect him to stand up when I went by this way. I don't know. He's a super annoying one. And he moves around too. As you can see, our lights are almost at the maximum level here. So that means with 5 out of 5, there's a witness very close by. And you can probably listen and hear him talk. So there we go. I hope they got a cool drink of water in heaven. He says he's right around this corner. So this is our first real witness out in the wild. And I'm not going to go for any fancy double hits or one cycles here, just so I can showcase. Basically, when you shock a witness, they will come to the location that you shocked them at, as you see. And now he's going to... And then once they get there, if you're not there, like if they see you and they're going towards you, they will take a big lunging swing at you, and they can do a decent amount of damage. So you do need to be careful. They're kind of, they're no joke. The witnesses will mess you up if you're not careful. But they will come to the location that you shocked them from, and then leave the trial. So he went through the EIG over there, and now we can use our tracker to find him again, or just look around. The tracker seems to indicate he's in this room right here, and he is. And here's a good showcase of a way that you can use a sneaky way to get multiple hits. So since I'm standing right here, and I can shock the witness is going to try to come to me, to come to my spot, since this is where I shock him from. But these boarded up doors are in the way. So what he'll try to do is bash through the boarded up doors, and that'll take a really long time and will give me plenty of time to hit him again. So as we'll demonstrate here, I shock him. He's going to try and come towards me. The boarded up door is in the way, so he's going to try and bash it in. And I can just sit here while he does that and take him out. And that'll be 2 hits, and he will die because that was our second and third hit on the witness there. So yeah, tons of different ways to do that. That's a nice one, is when there's, maybe if there was like a window between me and him, he'd have to go all the way around. The boarded up doors or locking a door yourself can be very good to do that. The pusher's back. But yeah, in general, very, very nice to learn the numerous different ways you can one cycle or multi-hit a witness. Even if you don't get the one cycle, getting 2 hits in one find will be very, very nice. So yeah, again, I could make a whole video on witnesses, and maybe I will do at some point, but for now, just know that there are many things you can learn about them. Also important to note on this trial in particular, once you've hit the witness 2 times, at least on higher difficulties, this might not be true on lower difficulties, but once you hit the witness 2 times, an additional enemy will be released into the area of that witness to potentially, annoy you and kill you. So that's another big benefit of one cycling on this trial in particular, is you avoid getting bothered by that additional enemy. Of course, there are 2 witnesses that we have to kill following the tutorial witness. We just killed one. There's one downstairs in the library, which we just did, and then there's one upstairs. And this is the area that was not available during the rest of the trial. This was opened up for this section. And this entire upstairs area above the library is a no rig area. So it's a rig disabled zone. All the gates that lead into here will disable your rig, just like the evidence area from earlier. So worth noting there that if you have the stun rig and you want to use it to help you with witnesses, you're going to have to use it on the downstairs witness, unless you can do a sneaky thing like zap the witness, who would be standing maybe right there. From here, he runs over here, you run out here, throw your rig from outside the zone into the zone. You can do that. And another nice thing you can do, especially decent on the downstairs place, if you're using blind and you put the blind outside the rig disabling zone, it'll still work. If you come back out, you can lure an enemy like coil and it'll blow up and will prevent you from getting bothered by them. So yeah, we're here upstairs and we're gonna look for the witness. Again, you can use the tracker if you want. It can help you out if you are not experienced with where the witnesses can spawn. I think this one must be in one of the rooms over here, given the fact that it is 2 bars on the tracker. And yes, so he's right there. And we can, again, use a potential tech of getting him to come all the way over here and having to break this window to get to us. So as you'll see, here he goes. He bonks the window with his head, jumps through. And since he saw me right there, he was able to hit me. So that's what I was talking about with witnesses being able to swing at you if you're like near them in the light. And I guess my brick didn't work. So you definitely want to be careful when going for the 1 cycle. So we did get the 1 cycle there. It's generally pretty easy if there's not enemies around and you have things like bricks to get a 1 cycle like that. Especially if you're able to shock the witness from far away and make him do some action between you and him. Utilizing bricks is easily the most common and simplest way to get a 1 cycle. The only problem is, unless you lured the witness a decent distance, you will need to use 2 brick throws per hit. And it can be a little bit sketchy because, as you saw what happened to me, if the witness is not done getting up or they're not done with their prior animation and you hit them with a brick, it will not work. So you need to be pretty careful with your timing on your brick throws if you want to go for the 1 cycle with bricks. So that can be a little bit scary. Also, just a note, if you're in escalation or it's like Geister or something and you have enraged enemies, witnesses are the most skittish little bitches ever on enraged. You will be behind them and they will run for an EIG. If they see you at all, you know, even out of the slightest corner of their left eye, they will run for an EIG instantly. Also, I guess worth noting, like if you walk up to a witness and don't shock them, they will run for an EIG and leave the trial. I guess I should have mentioned that earlier, but yeah, you kind of need to sneak up on them. But with enraged, it's like that times 100. It's so much worse on enraged that you definitely need to be so careful if you have that variator for whatever reason. Not something you're commonly going to run into. I mean, definitely not in Genesis, but it can be incredibly annoying at times. But yeah, that's pretty much witnesses. Again, so much you can learn about them. They are a very unique and complex objective with a lot of tricks and niche tips, but hopefully that gives you a good idea, at least a good foundation baseline on how to deal with them. Worst case, take the tracker, take the microwave trigger, and just go and zap them once, and then find them again, zap them again, find them a 3rd time, zap them a 3rd time. That's, you know, the basic way of doing it if you don't want to have to worry about luring them or using items or anything like that. Once more, we return to the courtroom and press the button to proceed with the finale of this trial, which is where we will be executing the judge here. I like to close all the doors to this area before we start, and usually I will start right here to begin the objective, but first we're going to talk about how it works. So basically there's 2 pranks here which get unveiled when the ending starts, and you currently can't use them. So the way you do these cranks is you have to do a little flippy electrical panel, and these are the same as the ones that you'll find on the sides of generators or on certain trials like Reunite the Family from earlier videos. And you basically have to go do 1 flippy panel and that will unlock the crank for you. So there's 2 of them back here, And you can follow the wire directly from the crank if you want, but usually you'll have plenty of, it'll be plenty easy to find them if you go this way. So we can come through here, and there we have our panel. If you want to know in detail how these panels work, check out the police station video, but basically, a quick summary, there are 4 lights in the middle. That means you can flip switches 4 times, but there's 5 red switches. You need to make all the switches green to complete the panel, and 1 switch will flip 2 switches. So you basically need to guess and just randomly flip switches until one of them flips 2. Since I flipped all of these and they all only did 1 flip, I know that this one will do 2. So I click it, it flips a second switch for me, and then I finish it off with the other 3. That's a very brief summary of how it works. There's no way of knowing beforehand, you just have to guess and hope. Check out the police station video if you have trouble with those for more detailed info. In solo, there's no real reason to unlock the other crank. So as you can see, we have this green light on. We can now hold down the crank to complete the objective. There's no real reason to open the other crank. You can if you want. Of course, in a group with multiple people, you're going to want to unlock both cranks. So we can come back here and unlock this crank as well. I messed up the thing, but it's okay. We got lucky on the second go. And yeah, basically you can be very free to do this entire thing if you just put a blind here, and then you can just crank while in the blind smoke, and you will be able to do the whole thing very, very easily. Otherwise, you will have to be careful, and I like to employ what I call the head on a swivel tactic. Coil will not come out here of his own volition, really. He will be in the back area that we were just in where you flip the panels, but he will hear you cranking and will come out. So if you just keep looking left and right, back and forth, you will not have to worry because you will see him coming through a door. And there he is right there. There's Coil. So we can just run and go into the back and, try and lose him and whatnot, however you want to do that. And then go back to the spot to continue cranking. And the judge will be executed in 3 stages. First, her legs will get smashed by hammers, then her arms will get smashed by hammers, and then she will basically die at the end. She will be, the rope will finish her off alongside a giant hammer crushing her head as well. It's pretty brutal, the judge's execution here. But that can kind of be how you can gauge how much time you have left. So we did the legs already, but we still need to crank. As you can see, the hammers for the arms will start going back, and will snap down. Now we have Coil. I wasn't doing head on a swivel there, you see, so it was a little bit of a surprise to me, and I got hit. Very important to do head on a swivel if you want to avoid damage. But one very telltale way of knowing when the objective is going to be complete is the judge will do like sort of a prolonged help scream, which we will hear once we get to that point. So let's keep cranking. And it's basically this is all there is to it. There go the arms, and wait for it. She didn't do it that time, which is just typical because we're trying to demonstrate it here. Usually she will go like, help! Hope that demonstration suffices. But she'll do like a long help scream, and that means you're very close to being done. I don't even remember the last time she didn't do that for the ending for me, so that is kind of unlucky, but still. That is a good indication, but you'll kind of just get a feel for it as you do the trial more, and eventually she'll be executed, and that's basically the end of the trial. We need to return to the shuttle now. Also important to note, once you start the finale, the tubes will be retracted, so you can't use this area to get rid of the Jaeger anymore, I guess, but otherwise it doesn't really matter that much. And now we need to head out. And you can either just go straight back the way you came through the lobby, or you can take a bit of a safer route, which I like to do if I'm, close to an A+, but I want to play it safe. If you open this door, you can use this, or you can go all the way around. But basically, you go through the evidence area, and you then take the first door here at the lobby and go into the back. And there's this window right here that will always be open. Usually on higher difficulties, there will be like a giant and maybe a grunt in the lobby and courtyard. You can circumvent them both by taking this path. Although you do need to worry about Coil, who will be probably out and about here somewhere. But yeah, like every main trial, you do come back to the same shuttle you entered. And you know, however you want to do that is up to you. You know, your favorite. You pick your poison. What's your favorite way to get back? Hit the button, and it's just the standard exit procedure. Just give Coil the business on the way here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This trial is honestly fairly complicated your first time through. I definitely can see new people struggling with it, especially the witnesses being a very different and complicated objective. But once you get it down, it becomes a rather boring trial, in my opinion, with all the tutorials that you have to sit through every time. I hope I covered everything properly there, since again that was a lot of new stuff, but that is Vindicate the Guilty. And now we'll be moving on to the MKs for this map. Yeah, 45 minutes is crazy. I mean, I did go into a lot of detail on everything, so yeah, I hope that helped out, especially, you know, stuff about the witnesses potentially, and maybe the boxes too, I don't know. Anyways, that is Vindicate. We'll be moving on now to the MK challenges for the Courthouse. All right, we are back here for the first MK challenge, which is going to be Escape the Courthouse. So yeah, believe it or not, the Courthouse map, we're going to be escaping it right now. And this one is centered around the witnesses. The entire trial is about the witnesses that we already reviewed quite heavily in Vindicate the Guilty, although I will be going over certain specific locations in this environment that are good to know about for getting easier witness kills. Again, I could probably make a whole video about witnesses, and there's a lot of stuff that's sort of niche and not really you know, well known sometimes, that I might want to do a whole video on, you know, although I believe COTS is working on one or has one already. Honestly, I need to go check and you know, double check myself. But regardless, I'm not going to go over like every little thing for the witnesses, but enough to help you get this trial done more quickly than maybe you currently are doing. As far as loadout, I would stick with the standard. You can again potentially bring backpack if you want, since we do need to pick up a microwave trigger for the entirety of this trial. But I would say it's even less valuable than on Vindicate, because you don't really need the tracker at all on this trial once you've completed it, even just a few times, because it's not very difficult to you know, find the witnesses, as the areas they can be in are pretty restricted. Here at the start of the trial, we're at a location that will be unfamiliar if you haven't done any of the other MKs before, because this area is not accessible on Vindicate the Guilty. It's a pretty small, like, mini prison area for you know, for the courthouse, I guess. And we are basically currently, as this guy's doing an announcement, we're currently behind the area where you do the finale, and right next to the area where the witness tutorial takes place in Vindicate the Guilty. So right here, we turn this corner, this is the gate, and right through this gate is where the witness tutorial takes place. It's that room right there, and that's normally where the glass is, where the witness is. You go out that way to get to the area where you kill the witnesses in Vindicate the Guilty. And so how this trial works, basically very simply, is you have to kill witnesses in certain areas to open gates to reach the next area. There's 4 total gates if you include this tutorial gate, and once you open the final gate, that will lead to the outside area in the front of the courthouse, and you leave the trial through the same shuttle that you came in during Vindicate the Guilty. So yeah, that's how it works. Of course, here we can pick up our microwave trigger, and there'll be one for every player. This tutorial witness right on the other side of this gate only has 1 bulb, so you just have to zap them once to open the gate here, as a sort of demonstration of how this trial works. And you can go look at the gates at any time to see how many witnesses are left, and it'll show you that above, you know, above the gate. So yeah, here, of course, now pretty much all the entire rest of this map will be familiar areas. There's not really a big change to much of the map, except for in the section which includes the lobby. There's some more doors in the hallways than there are on Vindicate. It's a little bit of a different layout there, but there's no like entirely new areas. here in the courtroom, we can see the first gate is right in front of us, and this will require just one more witness to be killed in this section. And it's a pretty small area that we have here. There's another gate there. It's basically just the courtroom and the back area where you do the panel switching to unlock the crane, or sorry, not the crane, the crank in Vindicate. And so yeah, we're gonna go back here, and again, you'll pretty quickly learn witness spawns when you do this trial a few times over. I'm not like gonna go over every single spawn, and I'm also not gonna go over every single way to one cycle a witness. But that is, you know, pretty much everything we talked about in Vindicate the Guilty also applies here. Most importantly, I would say on this trial is knowing that the witness will come to where you zap them from. So if we zap the witness from over here, he'll run all the way over here to you know, try and investigate where we were. So we can wait for him to do that. He stands there for a second before trying to go for the insertion gate, which he came out, which there's one right over there. And so we only need to use one charge on our brick to put him down there, because this first witness in the back only has 2 bulbs, which is important to know. That witness, as well as the next 2 witnesses in the next area, only have 2 bulbs, and then the final witness in the third area has 3 bulbs. So yeah, that's important to know. And yeah, it can be very beneficial. Hold on, sorry, one moment. All right. It can be very valuable, very important to know where the EIGs are on the trial. So we have that one over there, of course, because then you can know where the witness is going to try and go when you zap them, and that can help you better position yourself to potentially get the one cycle on them. Now, you might have noticed we didn't actually have a tracker. There was nowhere to pick up a tracker, and yeah, there is no tracker in that first section, so you kind of just have to find the witness. They can be anywhere in the back section. They sometimes come like up front to here. It's not a big area, so you should be able to find them pretty quick, and you only need to hit them twice, so that shouldn't provide too much trouble. But now we come forward here into the courtyard where the fountain was previously on Vindicate, and this is where you can pick up the tracker if you want it. I'm not going to pick it up here. We did pick it up in Vindicate, and I talked about how it worked, so if you'd like to, you can pick it up, but we don't have to. And here's the next gate, and now there's 2 witnesses that we need to kill, and these both have 2 bulbs, and there's going to be 1 witness on the library side, which is all lit up, and then 1 witness on the side with the evidence boxes in Vindicate, which is pretty much entirely dark. So we'll head over to the evidence side here first and check it out. And again, there's a lot of places the witnesses can spawn, but one that's kind of good to check for is in the room with the co-op door. So there's this co-op door here, and sometimes the witness will be like right where I'm looking right now, like right on in between those 2 shelves. And if you zap the witness from here, excuse you, sir. If you zap the witness from there, he will run all the way around to get to that spot where you zap them from, right outside the co-op door. So you can do that and get basically a free 2 hit, and that will kill the witness. Very nice to do that as a potential if they do spawn there. But it's pretty much all down to RNG. Looks like we might have gotten the backside spawn where they spawn like way over here. I don't think I've ever seen the witness spawn in this room, which I guess is worth noting. Oh no, he's in the closet. So we've gone we've gone in the wrong direction completely. But it looks like the witness is going to be in this room right here. There's really not that many spots that these witnesses will go, to be honest. I would say in comparison to Vindicate, the locations are far fewer. We're going to try and hope that this door is unlocked, which it is. And our witness will be in this back closet here. So it's going to be a little difficult to get the one cycle. I'll probably have to use 2 brick charges, but I'll try my best here with the zap in the corner. And then jump over. Actually, no. They do stand around there for a long time. So if you use that to your advantage and wait until like the last second to actually throw your brick, you can pretty reliably get 2 hits with 1 brick charge instead of having to use 2, even without strong arm. So yeah, that's a quick one cycle of that witness. And also important to note, when you're going for multiple hits on a witness, if it's their last hit, I guess I should have mentioned this in Vindicate when we were doing the normal review of the witnesses, but if it's the last hit, you will not be able to get it, like, you know, you won't be able to get it if it's very close. Like if the witness is almost into the EIG, you won't be able to trigger that last hit for the most of the time, but you can get a non-last hit. So if a witness has 3 bulbs, you zap them and they start running to the EIG, and you just barely are about to get another hit before the doors close, you can get that extra hit and put them down to 1 bulb if it's not the final hit, but you're not able to get the final hit while they're near or in the EIG because they won't be able to play like the animation of them dying, I guess is the reasoning for that. But that's important to know because it does come into play a decent amount of the time where the witness is barely going to make it to the EIG, but you can still get like an additional hit if it's not going to be the one that kills them. So yeah, that's cool to know. Now we're going to head over to the library here, and wow. That thing is way bigger than I expected, the floor grid, and ended up getting me damaged. We're going to look for the witness in here. A lot of the time they can be through this door. As far as a nice little spot on this one, it's similar with a co-op door. Right here, the witness can often be like right behind the door over by that desk. And you can zap them here and they'll have to run all the way around. And usually, again, that's a pretty free 1 cycle on the 2-hit witness. We're going to go back this way because we saw the X-pop there. And I feel like the witness is in this spot very, very often in this little cubby hole. So we can probably get a 1 cycle if we stand way over here and get them to come over. Because this EIG will be where he wants to go, and that'll be far too slow. Because we can just brick him like that and put him down. Now we're going to head into the 3rd area, and the 3rd area just has 1 witness, but that witness has 3 bulbs, so you do have to get 3 hits on them. And the most important thing to know when going into this 3rd area, which is basically the lobby and the 2 long hallways that lead out from it, and you know, additionally the rooms that are in those hallways, this witness always spawns from the same exact EIG every single trial. So you can go directly there and often get a pretty nice 1 cycle on the witness just by going to this 1 spot. So let's run there. So you want to run down the left-hand hallway, and you can take either of these first 2 doors. The witness will always come out of this EIG right here and unlock this door if you can, if you have time. Now he's going to leave because he heard me maybe, or he might not. You want the witness to go where he's going right now. It's just RNG. Sometimes the witness can go out this door and go like in that direction. Sometimes he'll turn left here and go this way and, you know, go like in this room here. They'll take different paths sometimes. Although this one that he just did take is the most common and gives you a pretty easy setup for a 1 cycle, especially if you have a brick, but you can even sometimes do it without a brick. So we're going to go ahead and set this up. Basically, to do this 1 cycle, and I'm showing this one very specifically because it does come into play a lot on this trial, and if you don't get this 1 cycle, I'm going to pause to quiet him down. If you don't get this 1 cycle, the witness will usually like go to the opposite side because this is a pretty big area. He'll usually switch sides of the lobby when he goes into an EIG. So if I zapped him here and he left, he would then go to the other side, you know, where the press room is and all that, and then I zap him over there and then he'd come back over here. It can get kind of annoying doing this when you have the grunts in the hallways and then the berserkers in the lobby in between and, you know, getting in your way. And, you know, the other side is mostly lit up, so it can be even more annoying to use. So this is a very good 1 cycle to know. So we're going to zap him from here in this corner, and that means he's going to run over there. So we can, I mean, I could just do it with all these bricks that I have. So I'll do 1 more hit like this, but what you can also take advantage of is that door we saw earlier. You can run back here because the witness is going to try to go to this EIG, and you can just lock this door. He'll have to bash it in. We can get a free zap on him there. Once he bashes the door in, you can hit him with a brick and close the door again and zap him. It's a very nice setup for a 1 cycle, even on the 3-hit witness, as long as they go that way. If they don't go that way and you're not well equipped with bricks, you're going to have a harder time 1 cycling, and you kind of just have to improvise from there. But that, again, I would say is a quite common occurrence that you can take advantage of and just very quickly and easily finish off this trial, which can sometimes be annoying, especially here at the ending with all the grunts and stuff, because, again, this whole side is all dark, but the other side over here is very lit up and has the grunt. Ooh, he's gonna hit me, isn't he? Oh, we're good. it has the grunt. It's very lit up, and you know, you're gonna have some trouble. One spot that is good to know about as well, though, on this side is this little closet area, because the witness will be in here a lot of the time if you only get one hit and he switches sides, and you can lock this door, and that's the only way he can leave. So if you hit the witness once and he comes to this side and has 2 bulbs left, you can very easily get the 2 bulb hit just by locking that door. That can make it, you know, that can be pretty free for getting the 1 or the 2 cycle kill with 2 hits on that side of the map. Let me just try not to get hit here. I would like to get an A+. It'd be nice to have that on my record. I don't really do much Genesis. Usually there's a poster in this hallway. That's surprising. Well, we may just have to hope we find one outside, but anyways, yeah, now the gate is open, so we can leave, and this is the way out. You just go out, straight out. Ooh, there's a poster here. Don't hit me! Hit W. And, oh yeah, also, I forgot to mention this, but you can clearly see it here. It's my mistake, I did forget to mention this. This entire third area is also a rig disabled zone. So we talked about these in Vindicate. If you want more details on them, they're pretty self-explanatory. When you're in this area, your rig is disabled. So that's the entire third section. So that's another thing that makes it a lot more annoying and means it's much more beneficial to one cycle the witness. So yeah, be aware of that rig disabling zone in this entire final area, and it re-enables your rig out the front here. Now we're going to head to the shuttle. Again, it's right out this door, the one that we use to enter Vindicate. However, when you open the door, Coil is always going to be right at the bottom of the steps there and will spot you. So usually I'll just go to the right here, and there's like a little staircase down that you can take, and he's usually not really a big threat, but he will always be there, so it's important to know that he is. And then we can head out here. Higher difficulties, there'll be a giant out here as well, but I think there's not going to be anybody here, so we can smash the like button and get ourselves out of here. So yeah, ending's usually pretty simple, especially if you just use that little side path to avoid Coil. And yeah, that's pretty much Escape the Courthouse. It's all about the witnesses, you know. The more you know about how to manipulate and, you know, kill them more easily, it's going to help you out a lot in saving time. Although that third section tip of where it spawns every time is very good to know and utilize. All right, we'll see you guys for the next MK. Next up here we have Destroy the Evidence, a trial that many people do not like, mostly because of the timed gates that are built into the trial, as well as the combination of that with the acid buckets that we did first review in Vindicate that make it so you really can't run around and get around these timed gates very quickly with the objectives. Hopefully what I have to share with you in this will make the trial a bit more bearable and help improve the knowledge of everyone on, you know, how to complete it quickly and how to manage those timed gates. As far as loadout for this one, you can mostly stick with the standard setup, especially for the amps. One thing you can do if you want is bring the jammer rig, which can help out a decent amount in getting you past gates in a one-off scenario if needed. So that can be a good pickup if you would like to, you know, have a little bit of a way to fight back against the evil gates. Otherwise, I mean, stun will still do you just fine as usual, and then there's no real reason to switch up the amps for the standard setup here. Destroy the Evidence. Let's head in. We do come out of the shuttle at the same place we entered, Vindicate the Guilty, and you will be returning to this same location to complete the trial, so important to know that. Also, interestingly, it is all dark out here instead of it being lit up like it is in you know, Vindicate. I think it's dark out here and Escape the Courthouse too on our way out, which I didn't really note. But yeah, often there will be an enemy out here that spawns. I don't know if there is on standard, but you're not usually completely safe to loot or anything, so don't think that is the case. You head into the main doorway here. It's pretty much the same as usual. There's really not... Oh, Pouncer, careful. There's not really any big layout changes or anything like that for pretty much any of the Courthouse MKs, importantly, so there's not a lot to make note of there. But yeah, here we have in the lobby the tutorial acid, and as we can see in the top left, the objective is to pour acid in the courtroom 0 out of 3, and there's a map here as well that shows you where the acid and courtroom and stuff is located. Uniquely on this trial, the acid will always be in the exact same place. There's no randomization here. The acid will always be in the main library room with the fireplace, and then in the back evidence room, you know, the one with the big shelves in it. So yeah, that's kind of good. So now you know exactly where to get them. But the main issue of the trial are these gates. So as we can see right now, they're actually switching. There's a rotation that takes place. This one is closing because it's flashing red. This one's opening because it's flashing green. These ones are staying the same. These gates will switch from being open or closed on a 2-minute cycle. So since they just switched, the next switch will happen in 2 minutes. But they don't just go from being opened to being closed every 2 minutes. There is a cycle to these gates that you can learn, and it can help you navigate the trial a lot more easily. There's basically 3 different cycles that the gates will go through. So the starting cycle, or you know, it'll start on a random cycle. Things are not like set for the trial, but the order will always be the same, and there's only 3 different rotations it can be on. The important thing to know about the rotations is which ones are which for getting into the courtroom itself. So we'll take our acid here, and I will always go up the right-hand side here through this maintenance door, because there are no gates in your way that you need to worry about being closed. You can just go all the way through this, you know, these evidence side rooms to get to, or to get as close to the courtroom as possible before you have to hit any of the gates. So we're going to do that. Again, the acid mechanics, you can't run or do any fast actions with the acid in your hands, or you'll take damage. I talked about that more in detail in Vindicate the Guilty. And this guy is just being the maximum amount of sandbag he can to annoy me. But hopefully we can get through here now. And yeah, just heading pretty much a straight shot up this right-hand side of this area through this door, which is of course locked. I'm gonna leave the acid behind so we don't get damaged, but we can go through this crawl space and then out this left side door, and this is where we'll encounter the gates that lead into the courtroom. So basically there are, and this grunt, I mean, why do they we need a no enemies variator to help me out in making these videos. Although it is nice to do them on Genesis, I guess. But, okay, we just had another gate switch, as we could hear from the gates moving. But basically, there's this gate right here, and it's important to know how these work at the end of the day. So this gate is closed, obviously, but if this gate were open, there's another gate that you can't quite see around the corner there that will also be closed. But if this gate is open, that gate will also be open. So you can then just do a straight shot through to get to the courtroom. And that's one of the rotations. So basically, like I said, there's 3 rotations, and I like to call them the right side, center, and left side rotations, because that indicates where you can get into the courtroom most easily. So when it's right side rotation, this gate and the other gate will be open and you can get in. When it's center rotation, that means that this gate will be open, and also the gate into the main courtroom, the big one on the front of the courtroom, will also be open and you can get in. And then when it's left side rotation, the one that leads to the left side of the, you know, courtroom area will be open instead, and that will be available. So obviously we can tell right now it is currently left side rotation for our gates at this moment in time. And you can also tell if it's middle rotation, if this gate is closed and so is this gate, that means this gate will be open. There's a lot of little rules like that that you can learn that help you decide what to do in this trial. And generally, the most important thing to know is the order of these rotations. So again, it will start on a random one of these rotations. There's no way of, you know, knowing that beforehand. But then the order will always be right side, center, left side, repeat. So it is currently, as we just discussed, left side rotation, meaning the next rotation in like a minute or so will be right hand side rotation. So instead of trying to go all the way around and find my way to the left side and get in that gate before it switches, I'll just leave the acid right there, because I know that when the gates switch, which they just did a lot more quickly than I expected, that side will be open and I can bring my acid into the courtroom. So as you can see, this gate is now open, and if I walk my acid through here, we have this gate as well, which is also open. Oh my god. And so then we can bring the acid over the threshold, and that's sort of like the main objective. The first thing you want to do on this trial is get your acids into the courtroom, because once they're in there, you don't have to worry about lugging them around, and it's a lot easier for you yourself to get around and get into the courtroom without, without having the acid weighing you down. So yeah, we're not going to make it for the right side rotation, but we can probably make it back with this acid for the center rotation. So we're going to head through here, and again, the acid will always be in the same place on this trial, and this guy is just, he's just sandbagging the video in insane fashion. But this is the place that this acid will always be. You'll always find it here, and there's no RNG involved on where it will spawn. If this guy would hurry up and chase me, I mean, good lord, man. Yeah, take your time. Just vault stuff if you want. Could be fun. We're gonna go this way. If you want to learn how to do the crouch door snap, be sure to check out my movement tech video, by the way, which is what we're doing here to avoid this grunt. Makes it so you can get around a bit more quickly. And we're heading now to the center gate, because it's probably going to be middle rotation very soon, although it's not just yet. We can drop our acid here, and that's pretty much the gist of the trial. And I mean, knowing how to handle the acid and make you move around the trial more quickly while holding it is a big benefit as well. But the main thing is knowing these 3 gate rotations, and it also applies consistently to every other gate on the map. Like if you know it is right hand side gate rotation or left hand side, whatever rotation it is, if you know what it is, then you can know the state of every other gate. But it's not really important to know that for the most part. The main thing that's worth knowing is which ones are open that lead you into the courtroom. So like I said, this is middle rotation, so this one that leads into the middle is open. And then for the library side, this is also open, so you can also come out of the library and go straight to the middle when it's open on this side. So we're going to head into the library now to get the final acid, which is in the fireplace room, which you might remember from the other trials, but Big Mama is out there guarding it, it seems. Or did she see me? I guess she did, although it didn't make any noise for her seeing me, which is odd. Okay, maybe she didn't see me, given she's going that way. We'll do a crouch door snap to avoid her. And then we go in here, and we can grab it. Again, always right here. The acid will always be right next to this fireplace. And then the library is probably the most annoying area to navigate. And it's kind of just about learning. I could literally make an entire... I don't know how I hit that. I could make an entire Grind the Bad Apples Pipes video, like level of complexity, showcasing all the different gate rotation things that are maybe worth knowing, but the things I've covered already are pretty much the main ones, and I don't want to get like too crazy detailed for this video. But yeah, we have the acid here, and even if the gates switch before we make it, which it would be close, this gate will be open for the left side rotation. That's the main one, because once you go through that gate, you're able to get to the courtroom as well by going up this way. As you can see, you can go, there's the gate, you go in through here and get inside the courtroom. So yeah, I hope that all made sense. It's a bit complicated, honestly, and I understand why people don't like this trial, but once you learn these things, these rules about the gate rotations, it makes it a lot nicer and a lot easier to decide what to do, because the main issue is like when you have an acid bucket and you come to a closed gate, it's very important to know, oh, should I bother trying to get around this gate, or will it open on a different rotation and I can just wait and go do something else while I wait for it? So yeah, obviously the objective is very much the same as on Vindicate the Guilty. You bring the acid up to this spot where the judge was in Vindicate, and you just pour it in. It's just a normal pouring procedure. There's nothing really to note about it, although it is in the light, so you gotta be careful you don't get spotted by coil, but you just pour it in. It's pretty standard. Again, the main thing on this trial are the gates, and this is the only trial with these gates sort of built in, although it is a variator you can encounter elsewhere. It's also very nice to know, especially if you're doing escalation, when the depending on the rotation, which gates will be open that you can use to get out. So we're going to pour this last one in here. And since it's switched, we know it's currently left-hand side rotation, so we go here, and this is open. And if it's left-hand side, I mean, again, you kind of do a diagonal. It's always, you always want to head towards that same closet, the maintenance closet that we used to enter. If it's this rotation, left-hand side, you do a diagonal straight across, and all these gates will be open, and it leads you straight to this door, and then we're back in the evidence area, and that's the maintenance closet. We can get out from there. If it's middle rotation, you can run straight out the middle here, and then I think this one is, or actually I think you just run straight out the middle, and yeah, then you make the hard left turn. So if the middle one's open, you go left and then through this gate, and then if this side is open, which it's opening right now, then you just go left and straight up the left-hand side. So yeah, the only one that's really that complicated, I guess, is the one that's on the, if left-hand side rotation is the one that's open, because you have to do that diagonal run. But otherwise, once you get into the evidence area, you can just run straight up the side, just like we did at the beginning of the trial, through this little closet, and then we are free from the gates, and we can go back to the shuttle. So yeah, not so much talking about the actual trial mechanic, which again is just the acid buckets, which we more thoroughly reviewed on Vindicate, but more so just navigating the map, because that's the main obstacle of this trial at the end of the day. So if you struggle with that, I hope these rules will help you out a little bit. Again, if you really want to go in detail with it, you are able to know any gate, like the state of any gate, based on the rotation, because there are only 3 rotations, but it's really not that important. It can be pretty useful in the library section in particular to know certain gates' status on the rotation, because that area can be a little more annoying to navigate. But just for surface level, like, I guess surface level advanced knowledge is just knowing those 3 rotations to get into the courtroom, because that's the most important part of this trial. So yeah, I hope that was clear enough, and I hope it helped you guys out. I tried to make it as clear as possible, but it is a little confusing talking about all the gates and their statuses. So yeah, basically 3 rotations, right, middle, left, and that's the order they rotate in, and it can help you out completing the trial quite a lot more quickly. All right, moving on to the next one. Next up here we have Fuel the Release, which is a trial whose layout very closely mirrors the one we had on Escape the Courthouse. So it's good to know that when you're going into these, that they are very, very similar in layout, and kind of similar in objective too, because we're going to be opening very similar gates to get out of the courthouse in the same direction. However, not killing witnesses this time. We are instead fueling generators, as the name would imply. I very heavily reviewed generators in the police station video, so if you want a full breakdown of exactly how the generators work, you can check that out. I'll give a brief refresher when we reach the first generator, but otherwise I will not go into as much detail as I did when we first encountered this objective. This is an objective we've seen on almost every map, or actually I think every map since then. Well, is it on Fun Park? Maybe not on Fun Park. I don't know. Regardless, we are going to be jumping in. Loadout, stick with the standard for this one. I think definitely, although blind can be pretty good at the end, maybe, if you want to run that instead of stun. Smash, very good on this trial, if not, or if only for the very beginning. Let's jump in and see what we can do here on Fuel the Release. Again, this starting area is the same as Escape the Courthouse. It's this little unique prison section of the, of the backside, and the whole objective of the trial is taking these fuels and bringing them to the generators. They're not really like hidden, and the fuel will always spawn in the same spot, no matter which. There's no randomization on this either. Just like destroy the evidence. However, there's a little bit of randomization on the order of which you have to explore the areas. So we can see that here once we get into it, but you of course have to remember to take the fuel, and then we head through into the courtroom and back back area for the first generator. The generators themselves will also always be in the same place, so we can always rely on going to where they are, and they'll always be there. The best part about having Smash on this trial is just smashing open this co-op door right here, because the first generator is right in the center of the courtroom itself, and this will lead you straight there, which kind of skips the entire first area. It's pretty nice when you are able to do that, or if you're in a team, you guys can do it without Smash, of course. If you don't have Smash or a teammate for whatever reason, then you do have to go around through the dark area where you will have enabled the cranks in Vindicate. But it's still not a very long trek with the fuel, and we head out into the courtroom and we'll find our first generator. Now the generators, again, I went over in the police station, but you fuel them up with the fuel just by holding down and pouring it into them. And then we have these panels, which we also had these in Vindicate to unlock those cranks. But again, how it works is there's 4 lights, meaning you have 4 moves, and there's 5 buttons that you need to turn green. One of the buttons will flip 2 buttons at once. You just need to trial and error guess until you notice which one does it. So we'll hit these 4. This button flipped both of the buttons to, it changed them both. So we hit that one first and then finish off like that. And that's how the panels work. There's one on each side of the generator. Again, more detailed explanation can be found in the police station video should you require more info on that. Lastly, once you've done the fuel and the panels, you need to crank the generator, and it's a little sliding thing that you need to hit. Ideally hit in the green zone, but if you hit in the yellow zone, that still gives you progress. 3 green zone hits will start the generator, and a mix of yellows and greens will take longer, especially longer if you miss the yellow and green entirely and click the white, because that will reduce progress. Your next fuel will always be right here on this cart, and then this comes the first part of RNG in the trial, where you either need to go to the library or to the evidence side. So in our case, we can see this shutter is closed, meaning that the library is not where we need to go, but that could be open and you would have to go through the library. So it's good to play this trial a few times to learn the alternative layouts, but our objective is now to get to the middle of the courtyard where the next generator is located. So we want to head this way, and it's pretty quick to get through these. Every single direction has a rather fast route. Although we are going into a big area, which is this evidence section, you really don't need to traverse much of it. We just need to go, in this case, we just go this way, and then through this door, and then immediately take this right, and you're already at the generator. The library is similarly quick and can be reached just by going through if you go through that shutter and then just take a left at every opportunity, you'll eventually come out of this shutter thing here, or potentially the door that's right there would also be a way you have to go, depending on the doors that are locked or blocked for whatever reason. So we're going to fuel this generator up, and then that will open up the gate over here. Now, if you came from the library side, this would instead be closed, and you'd open that up, and then your fuel would be like right there. There's always a guy, mannequin guy, holding the fuel for this last section. And you're supposed to go through the library or through the evidence area for this last section, but this is probably the biggest little speed tip on this trial. Even if you have to go to the evidence section, you can just come grab the fuel. You don't even have to go in that direction. You just want to come with the fuel back this way through the main gate of the courtyard and go through this door. Same idea, even if it's library side, you want to go that way, because this is easily just the fastest, and it pretty much skips the entire last section. So we go through this main area here, we go through this next door, and then you just go straight shot through the mailroom to this door. If this door is blocked for whatever reason, you can go through the crawl space and come out the bathroom door, but this will usually be open. And then even if this gate is closed, which it will be if you got the evidence side first, you can just walk up to it and it'll open up and let you in. And this is where the final generator is located, here in the lobby. And once you fuel this up, this gate will open and you can get out to the shuttle, the same one, of course, that we got to the trial in on Vindicate the Guilty. And again, it's pretty much the same layout as Escape the Courthouse is, and you can very easily memorize these layouts, because again, they are pretty much the same. Usually on higher difficulties, like Coil will be spawning here, and a Giant as well, and they can make things annoying for you. Generally, if you're trying to hide, you want to go to the left side here, because it's nice and dark and you can actually hide behind stuff. There's also these barred doors that can be beneficial to open to give you more avenues of escape. Maybe we can find a poster in this hallway and maybe find one on the way out to get our A+. But otherwise, it's a pretty simple trial. It's just based on these generators, which we've already talked about a bunch, and the main thing is knowing the map and the routes around. Again, the biggest tip for speed, I would say, is that little secret route where you go through the post office room and basically skip the entire last navigation segment with the fuel. But other than that, there's no immediate coil out the door, because he will usually be in the area, you know, trying to stop you from starting the generator. But he will spawn out here later, like he just did there, to, you know, try and annoy you while you're getting to the shuttle. But that's pretty much it for Fuel the Release. Probably the simplest trial on this map, and not one that I think generally gives people trouble, but that little optimization of going that alternate direction from the courtyard to the lobby can help you out, again, a little bit on getting a little bit quicker with your completions. Looks like I'm not going to be getting the poster here, unfortunately, but, you know, I'm not really too worried about maintaining that A+. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Fuel the Release, and we'll be heading to the next MK. The next two MKs actually have the same layout, but they'll be different from the rest of them that we've done so far, so I'll see you guys for those. Next up here we have Tilt the Scales of Justice, which is a trial that is pretty much solely centered around the evidence boxes with the blacklight number puzzles. And yeah, this one doesn't really have a whole lot of little tips or tricks. There's one thing that's worth knowing, especially for team or group runs, but the blacklight puzzles are generally a decent amount more difficult on this trial than they are on Vindicate the Guilty. You will probably have a harder time finding all the numbers a lot of the time, so all the information I reviewed in Vindicate the Guilty about these is important to know. Like, you can guess the last number at a penalty of 10 seconds. You can leave the room to avoid the damage if the timer's going to run out. But yeah, we are going to head out now into the trial, and this also takes place, this beginning portion takes place in an area that is not otherwise seen elsewhere. However, the other, again, like I mentioned, the other trial on this map, Sentence the Prosecuted, which will be the final one we review, is very similar in layout and also starts out here. So this is an entirely new area for this trial in particular, and usually on higher difficulties a giant will spawn out here, so you're not going to be very safe to loot, but we can potentially do that right now since we're on a lower difficulty. But yeah, there's this whole big outside area. Nothing really ever takes place here. This is just an entryway to the courtroom, or the courthouse, which does lead right here up these stairs, and this is where we get our first evidence head, and these are the same things as we saw on Vindicate the Guilty. They're just a normal heavy object. There's nothing special about them, nothing to worry about. They slow your movement speed and all that, but that is it. We need to bring them to Lady Justice, and Lady Justice is located in the lobby of the courthouse here. And the cool part about this is it actually gives access to an upper floor area that was not previously available in Vindicate or any other trial. So up here, we're actually above the courtroom itself, which is cool because Coyle comes up here on Vindicate, you know, and gives his little speeches and says his nonsense from like that podium over there. So it's pretty cool to be able to come up here and see this area on, you know, yourself on a trial. So although it's not like a completely new section of the map, it's something that's sort of new to you and is now accessible. And also there's some additional rooms off to the right hand side here that are also accessible that wouldn't have otherwise been on Vindicate. However, at the start of this trial, it's very closed down. The only thing you can do and the only thing you want to do is be bringing this to the lobby through the main area, which is the way that leads above the courtyard where the fountain is on Vindicate. And the little gimmick of this trial are the sound detector gates, which we did see on the orphanage for Gather the Children of God. I talked about them in a lot of detail there, but they're basically these gates where above them is a little bar that will slowly increase if you make noise, and eventually if it detects enough noise, the gate will close temporarily and you'll have to wait for it to reopen. They're not really that big of a deal. They're not very consequential on this trial in my experience, but just being aware of them. They are located in I think there's a total of 6 of them, 3 on either side. So there's one here, one there, and then one that's inside the lobby itself, and the same is true on the opposite side here. It's kind of a mirrored layout, although the rooms themselves are a bit different. So you just head up here. Of course, again, we're above the courtyard now, although it looks quite different in these trials. Down there is where the sentence to prosecuted stuff is like kind of all set up. But yeah, you can't go down there on this trial. But you can go down to the bottom floor of the lobby here, which can sometimes have loot, although there's no reason to go down there otherwise. It's worth noting. And we're going to wait a second before we put this down. Once you place the first tutorial evidence, it will kind of open up the whole map and start the trial for real. But it's nice to know beforehand where your evidence heads are going to be located. So there's a map right here. There's also one over there on the other side that will show you where you need to go. And this is randomized quite heavily. Pretty much every single room on here can be one of the rooms, except for like these two rooms right here can't be. I think those are probably the only two that can't be selected, although maybe this room, I'm not 100% sure. But the important thing to know is some rooms are more common than others. In particular, this room right here, and I usually call these, you know, blue side and yellow side. The far blue side room, which is right next to the courtroom itself, which is this right here. This map can take some getting used to read, so don't feel bad if you don't know what you're looking at the first time you're here. This room is almost 100% guaranteed to be one of the locations. It's not absolutely 100%, but it is like 90% or more, definitely. You can very reliably find one of your evidences in this room. So if you're in a group, one person can take the tutorial evidence and then one person can just go straight to this room without even coming to look at these maps, and will usually find an evidence box there. So that's the one tip really that's worth knowing for this trial. Otherwise, it's kind of just, you know, look at the map, see where you need to go there, do the blacklight puzzle in the room, and then bring back the evidence. There's not a whole lot else to it. It's a pretty simple trial in essence, but the blacklight puzzles themselves, again, can be pretty difficult. And here's those additional sound gates, by the way, that block your way. So we saw on the map that this is actually one of our rooms right here. So we're gonna break on into it and get started. And the thing is, like, there's so many rooms that can be blacklight puzzles. It's not really feasible or worth anyone's time, I don't think, for me to go through each of them and be like, this is where all the numbers could be. I mean, maybe that would be useful to some people, but it's just a little bit too much. It's kind of, that would be like grind the bad apples level, you know, pipe skip details, and it's not that hard to figure out on your own by playing the trial a lot. You'll get a sense for where numbers can be, and even certain rooms like the one at the far side, the one that almost always spawns, I pretty much know every single number spawn in that room at this point. So this room has you know, quite a few that we can look for. So there's 4 is the first number, 8, 8, 4, 7, 2. So there you go, pretty easy. This room's pretty small, so this is probably one of the easier rooms. Whoops, I did the wrong number. Oh, wait. Is it 8247? I'm stupid. What is wrong with me? 2 is the last one. 8472. Wait, what? I'm so dumb. But you could see the failure taking away 10 seconds each time. It's important to know that you do have more time on these than you do on Vindicate the Guilty. 8472, right? Okay, wow, I'm insanely dumb. But anyways, they work the same. Again, if you want more details on how the pyramids, you know, all come into play and what they mean in terms of figuring out the number order, just check out Vindicate the Guilty. I do the full breakdown in there. But then we grab the evidence and we bring it back to the lobby. It's just that simple. But yeah, again, it's very dependent on which rooms you get. Like, that is probably one of the easier rooms, but like this room and this room are very big. This room that we have actually is probably one of the ones I hate the most, so that should be fun. Coil will patrol a lot of the map and will sometimes be in this area and annoy you when you're trying to drop off your things. So we'll get out of there. Then we're gonna head to this room, which is the one again that it's very big room, and you don't get it very often, in my opinion. This one's quite rare, although that might just be anecdotal and not true. But it seems to be more rare in my experience. And you know, sometimes it can be even annoying to find the actual box itself. The boxes, by the way, don't always spawn in the same place in the given room. There's multiple locations they can be, so don't always look in the same place. Just look around for the red light. And yeah, you do have 90 seconds as opposed to the 60 that you have on Vindicate for these. I saw one there, so last number's 2. But yeah, this room is, again, very big, can be quite annoying. 8.2, 8.5.2. Will we be able to find the last one, or should we just resort to guessing? It can be pretty smart to just go and start guessing pretty early, so you have more time to waste on the guesses, but we'll try and find the last one. This room doesn't count, by the way. It's not going to be blacklit up in here. 8.5.2, I believe. There it is. 8.5.6.2 is the numbers. And yeah, as far as tips just for the blacklight puzzles, the most important thing I would generally say is the numbers can be quite difficult to see if you're not at the right angle. Like if there's a number like on the ceiling like there, and I'm way over here, I might have a hard time even noticing it's there. Like if you're at a weird angle, it can be almost invisible, and so it's important to like kind of look up at every possible point so that you see the ceiling directly above you. You know, I guess so you look at the entire ceiling from directly beneath it is how I would say it. That's what you want to make sure to do, because again, it can be very dubious to see some of them if you are not looking from directly beneath, and that also applies to other parts of the wall, you know, like objects. Like for example, let's see, say that this thing right here has a number on it. If I check it like this, just like a barely check, I might not even see the number because of how the visuals look. You need to do like a full check of it to be sure that you know, a number is or is not present. We just have one more of these to go, so we're going to head over to that room again that is over here by the courtroom, and that is always available, or not always, but is very frequently one of the rooms. Also, just as far as layout note is concerned, this hallway right here is where you do, you know, this is where you arrive when you're doing the witnesses on Vindicate. So like the staircase down to the courtroom would be right here. It's a bit of a jarring difference, but that's not here instead, and instead there's, you know, these rooms. So everything from you know, this sort of transition and to the left is will be new if you haven't done, you know, since it's prosecuting, like this room, this crawl space. You can lose Jaeger in here, by the way, good to know. Little crawl space. This room here is the actual bathroom, which can possibly be secret room on Vindicate, but this crawl space was not present. So yeah, just a bit of a little quick run through of the map layout changes, and that's why you're able to get to the courtroom on this trial from above instead of, and you know, but on Vindicate, like there's a wall right here. Or I think it's an EIG even. But anyways, enough of that. Let's get over to, this is kind of annoying. We have this gate blocking our way, but we can go all the way around, I suppose. Not going to kill us. And again, this room, the blue far left room, will be almost guaranteed to be one of the rooms you will get. This is the room in question, so you will become very familiar with the number locations in this room, I would say, as you do this trial more and more, because you will get it so dang frequently. And of course, this guy is not going to let us do this in peace. He seems to be quite upset, quite agitated, but we're going to try and do it anyway. There's one right there, number 4.5.4, 6, 5.4, maybe we got the blackboard one, 6574. Shit. Yeah, these guys are really young. There we go. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Again, if you need it, there is more info in Vindicate the Guilty for how the puzzle boxes themselves work and how you can avoid the damage from them, and you know, the guessing a bit is, I explain all that in more detail in Vindicate. Just don't want to fully rehash it here. We just need to bring this last one back. Also, just as like a strategical tip for this trial, I would generally recommend not doing what I'm doing right now. I just did it because there was enemies in the area. But I will usually stick to the wings. I won't bring the evidence out into the middle here and to bring it up because Coil will often be out here and spot you. And the wings are completely dark, so it's a lot easier to stealth your way up to get back to the lobby here. Last important thing of note, of course, we do head back to the same shuttle to leave the trial. I may not have mentioned that at the beginning, my bad. But you do need to be a little bit careful here if Coil is on your tail because you are going to have to get through the noise detector gates. So this one, obviously, in particular, just like if you're sprinting up to it, it will close in your face and you won't get through. I might have been able to slide under that, but I'm not sure. But just be aware of these gates when you're trying to rush out of the trial because they might catch you out and get you damaged if you're not prepared and are being pursued by an enemy. Otherwise, usually out here, that giant probably won't be spawned because it's standard, but Coil will be out here and try and stop you, but it's usually not a very difficult or complicated ending, especially if you, because there's these big like boxes in this telephone booth that that make it a lot easier to avoid Coil. Also, Coil has some really great lines that are unique to this MK, surprisingly, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, overall, pretty simple MK, but definitely one that you will learn a lot about as you do more because of all the different rooms you can get and all of the different number spawns in those rooms. We've just got one more MK left to go, which is going to be Sentenced to Prosecuted on the, well, a very similar map layout, just with access to that lower area, which was normally the courtyard. So I'll see you guys when we get there. All right, the final MK here for the Courthouse is Sentenced the Prosecuted. And this MK is actually revolving around a mechanic I have not reviewed yet, but was first introduced to the game on the Docks map with Franco's release, which is the decoder alignment, I guess you could call them puzzles, but sort of you just find them in the environment and then you use this item called the decoder to line up a pattern and you get a number code from that, which you then enter into a keypad to complete the objective. So yeah, we'll talk about it obviously when we get into the trial, but it is an objective that we haven't reviewed yet, and I will review probably in more detail even in the Docs video itself, since I tried to do a big detailed dive into the objectives in the main trial where they're introduced. There are very few mechanics that are specific to MKs, so that's why I do that for the most part. For loadout on this one, standard's going to do you just fine. You can bring backpack if you want, since the decoder is an item in your inventory, but it's really not necessary. And yeah, again, a very, very similar layout to Tilt the Scales of Justice, which we just reviewed. So let's jump into the trial, and we will see here that we are again at the same place, and we will return here as well once we complete the trial. So yeah, we do get our decoder pretty much immediately here. However, there's only 2 of them. If you're in a group of 4, there will be 2 more once you get inside. I don't know why they did it like that, but that's how it works. There'll be a berserker out here on higher difficulties, so be aware of that. Here's the decoder. It's very similar looking to the microwave trigger, but it has a different sort of display on it. And this is a 3-digit display. It's currently not showing anything because we don't have a code, but we'll see how it works here in a second. So we head into the main entrance here, and we get a little tutorial of how the decoder works. And you'll see here, this is the most important thing about the decoder pretty much. When you are nearby to one of the alignment patterns, it will start doing this. It'll start flipping, and that's sort of your indication to look around more closely for an alignment pattern. And if it's doing 2 number flips, that means you are very, very close. You're basically standing on the spot you need to be. And this is always here. This is always the tutorial version of this puzzle. It's this circle with a triangle cut out of the center of it. And you need to align this to make it look like the whole shape. And to do it, you need to crouch for this one and be, right about here. And you can see, I mean, these are really cool. I like them a lot. And now he's doing 3 flips because I can basically line it up right now. These are really, really cool, in my opinion. Some of them are in really crazy places, and you line it up with stuff that's like across the map, and it's pretty awesome, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite little mechanics that they introduced, and I really wonder how it works like behind the scenes. But anyways, in order to line up the code, and also there's a little bit of leeway with this where it will snap you into place very slightly if you're kind of barely off, which it still might do even though I'm very close to right. Yeah, you can kind of see it sort of move me a little bit. You just hold down the button and it will slowly flip the numbers to the ones that, you know, are the actual code. So we're gonna write this down just to be, not so I don't forget, because I'm going to continue talking about other stuff, but this will stay as the code on your decoder until you go do a different one, so you can, you know, remember it that way. But you need to remember which symbol it's associated to. Now in this case, this tutorial symbol is always the same symbol and you don't have to worry about it. You just need to know the number, which you're going to carry with you. But yeah, that's how this basically works, this mechanic. And it can be a bit difficult to find all of them, to be honest, at times on this trial. This trial is the newest trial in the courthouse, so it's one I definitely have the least experience with, but I'll still give a couple of additional tips now. Currently, the trial is fully locked down, but again, it's the 2 wings are the main areas, and there's 4 patterns you have to find in total, not counting the tutorial one, and there's 2 in each wing. There's 2 patterns in the office wing, 2 patterns in the, I think, judicial wing is what it's called, so you're going to need to go to both of those to find all the numbers. Also, the sound detector gates from Tilt are not present on this trial. You don't have to worry about those, but there is a rig disabling zone, or there are rig disabling gates that will basically completely disable rigs in one of the 2 wings. It is random. Currently in this one we got the office wing having the gates, but it could have been the judicial wing. It's just a 50-50 which one ends up having them, and the entire zone, so any way of getting into the office wing will have a rig disabling gate on it in our trial here. So that's important to know. If you you know, you got to be aware of when you go into those that you will not have access to your rig. I talk about them more in Vindicate. This is the central objective location for this trial here in the courtyard. Looks a little bit different. We have a bit of a gallows here, and behind the victim is where we need to enter the numbers that we receive from our decoder. And it creates a word on the screens, which is basically the crime that this person is accused of, who we are going to be dropping into the grinder here. So some people like to call this the daily wordle for the trials, which I do find quite funny. There's quite a few words that it can be, and each one of the codes you enter will give you 1 letter, so you can kind of try and guess which word you're going to get. Let's enter our first code here, and we got C as our first letter. What could that mean? I don't honestly know, but you'll see the symbols. I think it's not entirely random which side has which symbols, but it's not too worth knowing. I think it is always skull spiral on the left, sun pentagram on the right, I believe, but I wouldn't 100% quote me on that. It doesn't really matter which side which symbols are on anyway. You just need to know 2 on each side. So we can head over to the judicial wing here to look for symbols. And again, your best friend is basically you just want to walk around with your decoder in your hand, because as we already see, it will start flipping when you're kind of close to an alignment spot. And as you see, when I moved away, it will quickly stop flipping. So we can tell it's going to be in this room. It's going to be where we need to align with one of the symbols. There it is right there. Basically, just looking anywhere there's some white or some yellow paint, you can see that, and that will be, you know, you'll be able to go from there. So this one looks like we're going to have to crouch and line it up just about like that, and that will give us the pentagram number, which is 594, very close to other one, which was 562. You don't really need to line it up as carefully as I'm doing. You can literally hold down this and it will snap you into place once you're close enough. I don't know, I don't think it actually does it because we already aligned this one, but yeah, that's it for that one. As far as a strategical tip for this trial, because there's not really many tips to finding the patterns, there's one that I'll show later, but just walking around with your decoder out is very good. To keep yourself safe and avoid getting chased and spotted by coil for the most part, and I mean, we can get spotted here and it doesn't really matter. Going this way to put the codes in is pretty ideal. You go down beneath the Lady Justice statue, you know, down under in the lobby, and then you go out these garage doors and into the courtyard from here. This is a lot safer of a way to go put the codes in than going down this big central staircase where you're a lot more visible to coil from around. Yeah, I don't know all the words, so I'm not sure what this one is, to be honest. So yeah, avoiding this staircase by going through the lobby can help you out a lot in staying safe, just as a small tip there. We'll head over to the office wing to look for one of the ones over here. Obviously, it can probably be a pretty good idea to just go and find all the codes first before putting them in. You can write them down to avoid forgetting them, or, you know, find the 2 on one side and 2 on the other side, and, you know, put them in between. Whatever you want to do, but that's, you know, up to you. We have a code right here. We can see the part of the skull fragment that we need to align. And I'll show how it works a bit more closely with the automatic alignment here. So we see the skull's like kind of right here, but we're gonna have to be pretty close to this. So I can just hold this down, and then, wow, that was very aggressive. It is usually nowhere near that aggressive in automatically aligning it for you, but there you go. That's how it works. Just hold it down while you're trying to get in position, and it will put you in place fairly generously. So I'm going to write that down just to be safe with myself. And we can look for the other one on this side before going back. This side is usually not too bad to find them all. You just, you know, again, kind of just look around and keep your decoder out. It's not a very complicated objective, but it is just really cool seeing where they end up being, the alignment spots, just in my opinion. I don't know. I think they have some really interesting ones. Particularly, honestly, on the docks has some pretty crazy ones. And looks like we may need to go down the other side to find this one. So let me come out of here. It might be in the far room, so I'm just gonna run over that way. Hi, Cole. This room to the left of here. You will get a sense of where they can obviously spawn over time, so that'll help you out. But we can actually see it already over there. You see the yellow just barely in the distance there. They do glow very clearly in night vision, so that helps. But here it is right here. This is the spiral, and we're probably gonna need to line it up like on this or on where exactly? I'm not sure. Yeah, I swear, like, even on like Poison the Medicine, which is where these were introduced, I still find ones I've never seen before. There are so many alignment spots that you can get, so we're gonna hold it down, and it puts us into place nicely. And there you have the code. One small tip that's worth knowing for the decoder is, which can help you in a pinch if you are close to getting hit, is you only need to wait until the second number has hit the, you know, has fallen into place, I guess, and then you can run away and move, and it'll do the third number still. So that can save you like a solid second or two to get on the move again. And I mean, for speed running, that's good as well. But that's just important to note. Let's see what the code is, or what the word is going to be. Surely we can figure it out with just one missing. Okay, vices. It's going to be vices. Yeah, not exactly a standard crime, you would say, to be punished for, but hey, it is Murkoff, it is Signala, it is Outlast Trials. So we do these types of things. We just need to find one more. Oh, Night Hunter's actually here on standard. Interesting. Night Hunter will be on one of the two sides. He could have been on the other side, but in our case, he was on this side. Now we need to go find the final one. And the only thing I would say for finding the symbols, like, there's one spot that basically people will often forget about or not even know is... Okay, I'm tired of you. There's one spot that people will forget about or not even know is a valid spot for a symbol to be, and it's basically the room above the courtroom, the place where Coyle speaks from in Vindicate. That is part of the judicial wing and can have your symbol, and it's this room right here with the balcony. So like, your symbol could be right here and, you know, looking down into the courtroom, or it could also be like on one of these statue bust things. It can be a lineup on one of those. Just know that this room is valid. It is part of the judicial wing, and you need to check it for your alignment in case, you know, because when the trial first came out, a lot of people didn't know about that, and it can cause issues if you don't check that area, because you're not really going to get close to there and see the thing flipping if you don't know that that room is valid. Looks like we got the crawl space one, which I think is pretty common. This one's a weird lineup because it's kind of just all right there. Usually there's a lot of depth between the items in the lineups, especially on the docks, but this one's just kind of all on that wall, and you just line it up by standing here in the back of the crawl space. 190 is our final number. We can drop our decoder. Actually, I want to pick it back up. 190 is our final number. I meant to showcase that thing I mentioned with the 2 numbers only being required. We'll go back and do one of the other ones to showcase that. So 190, don't forget that. Of course, the grunt is there. But I'll show it now. This is a good time to show it because we're being chased. We line it up here, and then I wait for it. 1, 2, and then I leave. It doesn't save that much time, but honestly, it's kind of variable how long the last number will flip for. So it's a good thing to know. Trust me, it'll save you sometimes, and you can just, just be safe in knowing that as long as 2 of the numbers are like solidly in place, you can leave the alignment and it will finish the last one for you. Let's type in our last code here. And one thing that's important to do is don't forget to smash the like button right here, but also on the video. Because you might just put in all the codes and be like, okay, trial's done, time to go to the shuttle, but you do have to hit that button to sort of drop the criminal into the grinder, finish your prosecution by delivering the sentence, of course. So we're going to do that. And then from there, you just run back to the shuttle we entered from, and that's it. So yeah, same exit protocol as Tilt the Scales of Justice, although you don't have to worry about the sound detector gates, so it's usually pretty free. Again, Berserker usually out here on higher difficulties, so you gotta be aware of him. But again, usually not the worst escape in the world. And that is pretty much it for the Courthouse, folks. Again, I mean, being Coil Trials, Coil does have the simpler trials in the game generally, you could say. So there's not as many sort of complicated tips or strategies to be aware of. I hope the few things that I did go over in these trials were helpful to you. The main and most complicated objective that Coil introduced with this map were the witnesses, which we will see a lot in other trials as we continue this series. So yeah, getting familiar with how they work is quite beneficial, and that is probably the thing that can save you the most time on this map is the witness knowledge, because it is a very big difference between one cycling a 3-bulb witness and having to find them 3 times and hit them 3 times to get them killed. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I am going to be continuing this series, of course. We are only 4 maps done now that we've done the Courthouse here. Next up, of course, will be the Toy Factory, which also has a 1 main trial and 5 MKs, just like the Courthouse. I'm not 100% sure when I'm going to be making that. I might wait until, we're not going to get another Toy Factory map, obviously, on Season 6 because we have the new one from the latest patch. But yeah, as far as like schedule for upcoming videos, I mean, this wraps up the Courthouse. Vindicate, Escape the Courthouse, Destroy the Evidence, Fuel the Release, Tilt the Scales of Justice, Sentence Prosecuted. Again, not the most complicated set of trials. Probably the one that helps the most, having the most knowledge as far as the MKs are the first 2. Fuel the Release is extremely simple, just has that one little shortcut. And then Tilt the Scales of Justice, Sentence Prosecuted are somewhat, big trials. They can take a little bit of time, especially if you're new to them, but they're relatively straightforward and not a lot of extra things to talk about. So yeah, that's pretty much all we've got to say for the Courthouse. I hope this helped you guys out. As far as upcoming content, I'll be streaming on Saturday as usual during the day, so be sure to tune in. Usually start kind of around noon Eastern if you're interested. Additionally, if you haven't seen it, Red Barrel's released their 2-year anniversary Q&A with the devs. I highly suggest you check that out. It's very cool to see the devs talk about the game. And yeah, for videos, this is coming out, of course, and then next week, the next video I will have out is going to be the upcoming weekly, which will be replacing the Bogomolova event. I think it's either going to be Deadlock or Burnout, which are the 2 new ones that we're getting here that we learned about in the patch notes for the Bogomolova event. So I'll be covering that as my next video. And then after that, I might do the yapping video where I speculate on the Barricade and X-Ray reworks and things, and maybe some escalation ideas. Or potentially, I'll probably push the Trials tier list until after Season 6 comes out. And then we'll do the Trials tier list at some point there. I'm also working on another completionist critique video. And then this series we will be continuing as well. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff in the works, a lot of stuff coming fairly soon in the near future. If you missed it as well, I just uploaded yesterday the roadmap breakdown for the roadmap. Red Barrel is just released for the first third or so of the year, so definitely check that out. It is quite exciting to see what's coming, especially with this update that's right around the corner for Season 6. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this video helped you out. Let me know if you learned anything in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.